when the time comes, just yell out. Now, it's great to have our newly elected community board chairs and deputy chairs with us today. Thank you for the work you do for your communities. First up is Banks Peninsula, and I'd like to welcome Lynn to the table. And Penelope.
Morning, everyone. For those of you that have returned, it's really nice to see you, smiling faces, and those that I haven't met yet, I look forward to doing so in due time. And even though I am happy to see you all, it is with a very heavy heart that I want to acknowledge the passing of our friend, colleague, and my deputy chair, Nigel Harrison, who Mayor Phil has just acknowledged, passed away unexpectedly on Monday evening after a happy day in the boardroom with all of us. We extend our sincere condolences to his family, to his friends, and all those that knew him and mourn him. We will pay tribute to him at next month's presentation as the board wishes to honour him and his great legacy, because you're right, he was very passionate. Okay, so now I'm sure Nigel would want me to get back and representing his area. And I acknowledge the change of tack, but we'll just roll with it. We have two new representatives on the board. Going too far, there we go. We have two new representatives from the Mount Herbert subdivision that I'd like to formally introduce to you, Nigel and Josie. Josie has lived in Allendale for 9 years with her husband and children after 10 years in Wainui, giving her very strong roots in Banks Peninsula. She brings 17 years of experience leading a large not-for-profit organisation. So heavy hitter, which is fantastic. Nigel is the Mount Herbert representative with a background as a clinician and senior health leader. He understands how complex public organisations work, so he should do well. Both Nigel and Josie have already stepped into their roles with energy and commitment, and I'm looking forward to them being part of the team. Turning now to the significant issue over the summer period, freedom camping. The board have heard from locals who are having ongoing troubles at the Robinsons Bay rest area. Many of the vehicles parking overnight are not self-contained, and during busy periods there can be more than 8 vehicles each night, which, as you can see by the small little parking area there, 8 vehicles is a lot. There's often signs of toileting in nearby bushes, which is both unpleasant and a genuine health hazard in an area heavily used for swimming, boating and recreation. Residents have petitioned council and Waka Kotahi for years to have signage installed to clearly show that camping is for self-contained vehicles only. Unfortunately, because the rest area is NZTA land, council has no jurisdiction to place branded signage or to enforce rules there. While council could theoretically amend the bylaw with NZTA's consent, this would require significant budget and ongoing management, and council does not support this approach due to costs and the wider implications. NZTA itself has no legislative obligation of enforcement under the Freedom Campings Act, so we're a bit stuck. But while unbranded signage may be possible, enforcement would still not occur. However, the Robinsons Bay Wharf, just a little bit down from this picture, there's a turnaround area there, is covered by the council's bylaw, so the compliance team will ensure that monitoring and enforcement occurs there as required. But in addition, although enforcement is not possible in the rest area, contractors have been asked to have an educational approach and engage with campers where possible. NZTA is also consulting with its legal team about signage options, so cross fingers we will get some results. The board has recently heard a forum presentation from the head of the Bay Society Incorporated regarding freedom camping in Duvushal as well. Concerns raised include similar health impacts as Robinsons Bay, but also security risks, particularly for elderly residents. Blocked views, campers using camping ground facilities without paying, and reduced space for picnickers and day trippers. Staff have advised that while the freedom camping bylaw can be amended, the process is unlikely to succeed. A recent case in Queenstown confirmed the impacts of nearby properties are not considered a relevant reason under legislation, which is disappointing. Staff are encouraging people to report the issues as this both allows immediate responses where possible and to create a valuable data trail for advocacy later on. Any threats to personal safety should be reported directly to the police. Moving on to Port Levy toilets. On a more positive note, the upgraded Port Levy toilet kitchen block is now open. The board allocated Better Off funding to replace the very old school facilities with modern, fit-for-purpose amenities, and they look beautiful. This is a practical improvement that supports locals, visitors and community events, and it is fantastic to celebrate something, to be honest. Port Levy Community Hall. Finally, the community hall here is the last of the peninsula facilities that is earthquake prone still and requires upgrading to meet post 2011 building standards before the 2037 deadline. That's only 11 years away. That's actually quite scary. We will continue to advocate for funding, and planning is underway to integrate the hall into broader community resilience planning alongside the local marae. And we appreciate your continued support and patience as we work towards securing investment to protect this vital space for connection and well-being. That's me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lynn. It's always good to hear from you, and I'm so sad once again to hear about Nigel. So
Same to you.
thank you very much.
Okay,
Good
thank you.
Good to see you. Okay, Spraden Cashmere Heathcote. We have Kia and Sophie. Just Kia by herself.
Good morning, kia ora koutou. I do bring apologies from Sophie. She is still on childcare with the long school holidays and looks forward to coming along next month to see you all. So it's a pleasure to be here. I think this is the first time I've been in this room, and that still many of the same lovely faces. So to start with some introductions, I'm Keir Leslie. I'm the board chair for this term, and Sophie Bond, who is one of our new elected members representing Spraden, is the deputy chair. We've also been joined this term by Kate Hodgins, who comes from a background with the St Martin's School community and an interest in community energy resilience. And obviously Nathaniel, who I suspect most of you will have met by now. I would just also like to take the chance to acknowledge board members who served on the prior board who are not with us this term. Callum Ward, who was the previous chair, Lee Sampson and Sarah Templeton, who've moved on to other things. Thank you. So at the moment, as with goodness me, 10 minutes into our own, sorry, sick of us. As you can see, we're developing the board plan. This is one of the processes all boards work through, but we're finding it really valuable working together to try and identify those shared priorities that reach across the board area and across board members to see those things that we all care about and we all want to work on. And we'll be coming back, I'm sure, to talk to you about them until hopefully you're sick of hearing about them from us, because that's our job. So one of the major pieces of advocacy that we see coming up in the near term is around Addington Stadium. We know that this facility is going to change, this land is going to change what's used for it. There's an amazing new stadium almost ready to open, so this is going to be something different in the near future. What we really want to see as a board is that the community is part of that journey, and the community are able to say what's going to add to Addington, what's going to make this land improve Addington, what's going to be a facility for our community in that space. And we think that getting the community in from day one is going to be a really key part of whatever that land use looks like, making sure that works for that community. And I'd also like to really say that I think it's really important to acknowledge the heritage of that land and the role that the rugby league fraternity played there, a sport that's often not had the fair suck of the sav it should have, and I think that's something that we really should be looking at. Some of the projects, this was actually a project that was wrapping up towards the end of last term and has been working through, is the Place Cadets at Hoonhay Park, where some of the tamariki from Rowley School worked together with Parks and some of the board staff, Nimi in particular, to co-design improvements to that park. So it's a really cool way where young people were able to take some ownership of a local park and think about how they could make it a better place for themselves and their peers. So that was a really awesome thing to see coming through. We were also really stoked to receive some correspondence from the Honourable Casey Costello, Minister for Seniors, who wanted to get in touch to share her appreciation of the work that the age-friendly Spring Cashmere Heathcote team have been doing. This is a project that's been going on for as long as I've been on the board and beyond before then, which is looking at how we can continue to have, as people age, how we can make sure that communities, and particularly the council's built environment, works for those communities. So it's been a really awesome project. It's looked at a whole bunch of different stuff, and one thing that's been amazing is it's been led by a really strong cohort of our seniors. I won't name all of them because I'm sure I'll miss one of them out, and I'll get a clip round there from at least one of them if I don't mention them. But they have been real legends who've really invested in that work, and also we've had some amazing staff support them through that process as well. So that's the most recent stuff we've been up to, and happy for any questions.
Okay, you've worked to exactly the right length of time. So thank you very much for seeing you for the first time of the year, and look forward to seeing you next month.
Brilliant.
Thank you, buddy. Okay, so now we have Fendleton Waimari Harewood, which is Jason and Nicola. Yep.
Kia ora tātou, I'm Nicola McCormick and this is my first time here, so bear with me. I'm going to talk to you today about, first of all, about a couple of exciting events that we held last year. So late last year we held a very successful youth hui, and that was held for organisations working with young people in the Fendleton Waimari Harewood youth area, board area. One of the exercises that the attendees contributed to was a mapping exercise, and this is where they identified gaps and overlaps and opportunities for future collaboration. After all these discussions and exercises, there were some key themes raised by the attendees, and I'll just quickly go over those. One was youth worker shortage, the need for more support around mental health and wellbeing for young people, the need to create regular input opportunities and strengthen connections with migrant youth in particular, the need for programs that increase life skills and intergenerational connections. It was great to have the feedback that there was also a clear desire from the attendees that this hui become an annual event. Options for ongoing collaboration include online forums, working groups, and feedback to inform future hui and initiatives. Also last year, we held our annual thank you breakfast for our local community groups, and we saw about 30 people gather in the Oroawhata Bishopdale Community Hall. We did start with a cultural quiz, testing knowledge about New Zealand and other cultures, and the winning table did get to go and have their breakfast first, which was great. It wasn't Aaron's table. I was in that table. But it was an honour to thank all the organisations and the people present for their hard work that they do for our community. Our communities, as you know, are so much better off for all the work that these groups and people do. The rest of the session was spent sharing and networking. There were quite a few new connections made and partnership projects discussed, which was great. Not myself, but a few keen people did pop out afterwards to have a go on the outdoor tennis table installed on the Bishopdale Village Green. You can see in the picture on the slide. The tennis table was the result of a request from the public. The community board provided funding through the Better Off Fund, and the library next door has the bats and the balls for people to use, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much. I'll now hand you over to Jason.
During the flooding event prior to Christmas, there was some confusion around communication regarding the possible evacuation of residents in Coots Island. The Belfast Area Residents Association held a meeting in January for residents of Coots Island to look at developing an area evacuation plan. A survey was circulated prior to the meeting to find out what residents wanted to know. It was very successful, with speakers and attendees from regional and local civil defence emergency management, Environment Canterbury and Fire and Emergency New Zealand. The main takeaway, as always, is to make sure you have your own household evacuation plans and preparations in place for any eventuality. You have to do what's right for your safety in any emergency. Don't wait for an official response. Civil Defence and FENZ both have resources to help with this planning, and FENZ will come out and work through things with you. When an event triggers a Civil Defence response, there will be notices on websites. Mobile alerts will be sent out. There will be emergency events to those phones in the area of the event, as dictated by cell phone tower connections. Work to develop the plan is underway with support from the Belfast Community Network, who have already developed the Belfast Emergency Response Plan. The community-led renewal of the nature play space at Inglefield Reserve saw stepping logs, tables, a whare and balance beams installed mid-December. The Sticks Living Laboratory Trust cleaned up a heap of willow cuttings, regrowth, and some weed eating around the area has seen the space come more alive, especially as local communities discovering this new addition to our community. There will be an official welcome to the community event held in conjunction with the advisory group, particularly the North Residents Association, in the coming months. Belfast School will be using the space as an activity area for school projects when they come back to school for the 2026 year. The leadership team who helped with the consultation will have a special visit to the space to kick this off. The local resident associations and school will be informal, community-based overseers of the site. Discussion around education and interactive signage for the space is ongoing, allowing the design and content to be further informed by the use of the space. There will be no shortage of ideas and excitement for additions and steady use of the space in the afternoons. After a 10-year battle, our board would genuinely like to thank the staff and contractors involved in getting the lights installed at this busy and dangerous intersection. The work undertaken during the Super Week was particularly impressive, and having it all set to go just as school starts back is an ideal outcome. Feedback from residents clearly indicates how grateful they are after having to wait for such a long time. Our board would also like to acknowledge Councillor Kewen, who refused to give up on this intersection and continued to strongly advocate for what his local community wanted. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, perfect timing. Thank you once again, and well done, Nicola.
Thank you.
Good-o. Papua Inner Central. Simon, please. Good to see you, mate.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa. Apologies from our board chair, Dr. Sunita Gautam. She has some family commitments today. Thank you. As usual, we'll have bring you on just an overview of the events and activities that have happened across our ward over the past couple of months since we saw you last. At our previous board meeting, we had a public forum from a couple of people from the Merivale Retirement Village talking to us about the state of Som Street in St Albans. It's one of our classic Christchurch, highly cambered, deep dish gutted streets. There's a retirement home there. St Albans Catholic School is on that street as well. And we also had a resident come speak to us about traffic concerns not too far away in Trafalgar Street. We're just waiting on some staff advice on both of those. We also had a briefing from staff on a large package of works that is just gearing up now in the northwest on our roads and water infrastructure. There is $35 million worth of wastewater and water supply works happening over the next 2 years, and some transport projects as well, including parts of the Wheels to Wings and the Norwest Arc cycleways in that area. There's a lot of work going into coordination around those projects, contact with stakeholders in the community. Of particular note, when previous works were underway at the Orangi-Wairaki intersection, for quite a period of time there was a detour route through Condell Ave, and we're going to have one of those again because there'll be more works, water infrastructure works happening on Wairaki Road. And something that we have noted as a board is the concerns last time around particularly the bus detour. The number 8 port-to-port bus is impacted by that, and there was a real impact on access to people to particularly bus stop issues along that length of Condell Ave. So that's something we are going to be looking at as a board to support our community that are impacted by that. Thank you, Emma. An initiative our board started in response to feedback from school principals in our area, was some funding towards civic awards that have been taken up by a number of our schools, and we left it reasonably open for schools to determine criteria and exactly what those awards would be for, school by school. But you can see on this slide presentations from 3 of those. There's at least one more picture to come in a future presentation as well. But they're being used to recognise community service and civic participation by students in our schools. It's been a really cool thing to get underway. Summer with your neighbours. Every time we talk about this, I'll remind Council that this was a brainchild of what was the Shirley Papanui Community Board in 1998. Started as Neighbourhood Week under the forebearer of our community board. Has moved citywide and is now a summer-long event, and there's just some highlights on this slide from some of the more recent events there. And it's been a really positive thing for our community of, relatively or very small spend through the community board as a catalyst for some really great community get-togethers. Our slides aren't advancing. Sorry if we could get some help with that. Thank you. Some community events towards the end of last year. A couple of our community organisations, Shirley Community Trust and also Neighbourhood Trust, ran light parties, and this is to provide a sort of safe and accessible and free event for families. They're run around the Halloween time, and it provides families, particularly with younger children, something to engage in and some of the excitement of that night in a way that feels perhaps a bit safer for some of those families than the door-to-door kind of approach. We had events at Phillipstown Hub. I'll come back to that in a moment, and also Te Whare Roimata. So the Phillipstown Hub has, as you will be aware, a substantial and growing community garden. There was an open day there with a key message to the community that garden is available for members of the public to come in and pick enough for a meal, as well as it engages a number of volunteers in continuing to support it. I've got another slide on another event at Phillipstown Community Hub as well, and just noting that at our meeting on Monday, our board made a decision on some recommendations to Council in relation to the future of that site. That'll be coming as a part A to our finance and performance meeting later this month. Te Whare Roimata, there was a Hauora Day there. That's an organisation that supports eastern sort of inner city neighbourhoods, and there was a day there with quite a number of health providers and other supports present. More community events. So Avebury House, there's always a large annual event at Avebury House in conjunction with Revolution, the Richmond Community Garden. More than 2,000 attendees at that. Vintage Market, Boot Sale, Gear Up o Tautahi, the sports gear swap initiative that the council has supported, all present at that. And back at Phillipstown again, the Spring Gala at the Community Hub with market stalls, live music, council staff with their gathering information to feed into the thinking and the decision making around the future of that site. Maireho Volunteer Library held an open day and market. That's on Kensington Ave. It's a small-ish community-led library, first opened back in the 1960s. And they're running an open day to increase community engagement with their site and also do a bit of fundraising for their operations. We recently celebrated back across to Richmond, the 10th anniversary of the Richmond Community Garden and the first birthday of the Richmond Cafe. And finally, near the end of the year, we celebrated the opening of the Lancaster Park Community Centre, which includes meeting space for up to 100 people. There's a kitchen, smaller meeting room, externally accessed public toilets, as well as changing rooms for sports clubs that use that site. It's been a really exciting project to be part of as a community board. And that's a quick catch up on what's been happening in our community.
Good. And Simon, thank you for bringing up councillive. I'm actually having bits of chit-chats with the asset team to see if on the northern end, on the newer bit, not the other bit, which is going to be fully reconstructed, about asphalt smoothing that rather than going to the trouble of repairing the repaired laterals, because the 2 years buses are going to be going down there because there's going to be a lot of work going in on Waireki Road, so it needs to be as smooth and as good as it can be, otherwise buses will bump over the repairs and people will complain, so I'm working on that.
Yes, we had, I think all our elected members had quite a bit of feedback on that last time, the vibration traffic impacts and also the service it was offering to bus users as well.
So thank you very much for coming in, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Righty-ho. Marie and Sarah. Horsball, Hornby, Riccarton.
Kia ora, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning, everyone. This is my first week back at work and my first day back at Civic, so good to see you all again. So thank you for the opportunity to present the first report of this term for the Waipuna Halsall Hornby Riccarton Community Board. So as this is our first presentation for the term, I'm pleased to introduce our new Deputy Chairperson, Sarah Brunton, who will be co-presenting with me. And I'm also happy to introduce our two new board members. To the right and in the photo, standing is our very passionate community advocate, Cody Cooper, community advocate for Hornby. And the guy sitting next to me is Joseph Fullerton, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler. He's still a student at Canterbury University taking law. He's still a law student, so he's our youngest community board member. So, next slide. Right. At its meeting in December 2025, the board considered and approved the appointment of board representatives to local external organizations for the 2025 to 2028 term under its delegated authority. However, the board does not have the authority to appoint a council representative to the Ruapuna Community Liaison Committee. As a result, agenda item number 9 of today's council meeting includes a Part A report recommending the appointment of community board member Cody Cooper to the Ruapuna Community Liaison Committee.
The Riccarton Central Youth Audit Workshop brought together 25 young people from 9 youth groups, 6 schools and the University of Canterbury to review and prioritise the recommendations of the 2024 Riccarton Central Youth Audit. Participants learned how the council operates, how to influence decision making and how to drive positive change for young people in Riccarton Central. The 2 highest priority recommendations identified were the development of dedicated youth hangout spaces and upgrades to local bus lounges. The nature-based play space at the Mātatiki Hornby Centre, which is our local new library and pool, were finished in mid-September and marked with a small community celebration. Local play groups and preschools took part in play activities and storytime session, followed by a sausage sizzle hosted by the one and only Greater Hornby Residents Association. Designed for children aged 0 to 6, the new play space features a slide with a wooden platform, logs for seating and balancing, a bench seat, and an informal log round seating, as well as a tunnel and a balance beam.
Now, a workshop was held in September with representatives from community organizations to begin the development of community emergency preparedness plans across the board area. These plans are created collaboratively by communities to guide how they organize people, resources, and actions in response to emergencies and disasters, and are expected to align with similar plans developed in other parts of the city. The workshop was facilitated by staff from the Community Governance team and the Civil Defense and Emergency Management team, who will continue to support community groups as they progress their plans. In addition, FENS and the Council Civil Defense and Emergency Management team delivered a wildfire prevention information session at the Holswell Community Hub in November.
An art competition to design the hamster wheel for the Waikola Skate Park attracted 90 submissions from students aged 5 to 18, with most entries coming from local Hornby schools. A short list of designs was exhibited at our local Matatiki Library, where community members were invited to vote for their preferred artwork. Plans are also underway to display student artwork along the Waikola Skate Park pathway and to feature it in a local art exhibition.
And lastly, Holswell, Hornby, and Riccarton were full of energy late last year, with loads of events happening across the communities. A snapshot of these is up on the screen, and crowds ranged from around 120 people to as many as 1,500, showing just how popular these events were. So that wraps up our report. Thank you, and we are happy to take any questions if we have time. 4, 3, 2, 1. Got it. No more.
Good work. Keep up the good work. Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, certainly not least, we have Burwood Linwood Coastal, and Paul McMahon's not here. He's an apology, and we've got Jackie and probably Chris. Did we, Jackie? That's all right. And
Chris is meant to be here to hold my hand. I hope he comes soon. Because, you know, I'm feeling a bit. Thanks. Morena, councillors, staff, and everyone in the gallery. I know I joked that I wanted to be back here and sitting in this chair for board presentations last year, but I really don't want to be here today. I'm going to say something, and for those of you who are here in the last term, you would have heard it once a month for the last 3 years when Paul and I have come in here. I'm going to say to you, the wastewater plant still stinks. It still stinks. It's always stunk. It's been stinking for the last 4 years. I do bring apologies from Paul. He really wanted to be here today to talk about this, but he chaired the meeting last night at Bromley and he did an absolutely excellent job of that. But he is recovering from surgery, so he's fatigued today. The last couple of weeks, we've seen an influx of horrendous smell across the whole city. And a crisis has come and everybody is in crisis mode. And we're hearing from people all over the city about how horrendous the stink is and how someone needs to do something about it and how heads need to roll. The people who live adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant have been living in that crisis for 4 years. They never get a day off. And when they come to me and they say, if this was in Fendleton, you would have fixed it by now. The council doesn't care about us in the east. They don't give a toss, they're not listening. When are they going to fix it? How am I supposed to tell them that you do care when it took the rest of the city being able to smell it for you to actually stand up and show that you cared? All right? And I know, all right, I have a lot of friends sitting at this table today. I have a lot of respect for all of you and the work that you do. I have respect for the staff, and I know that everybody at the wastewater treatment plant is doing their very, very best. They also have to live every day in the stink, so there is no way that they are not trying to fix it, because why would you want to work in those conditions? But the people in Linwood are going, where have you been for us? Where have you been for us in the last 4 years? That you're only just, actually standing up and saying this is a crisis. Now it has hit your constituents. Now that it has hit the people that are coming to you and going, do something about this stink. I've been coming to you for 3 years and telling you how bad it is for the people in Linwood. And I feel for them. So last night there was anger in the meeting, and that was justified anger. And I can tell you now, people aren't angry because they want to be angry. People are angry because of frustration. because they feel abandoned, they feel ignored, and they feel that you're not actually standing up for them because we haven't seen anything, right? Waikato boards get reports on what's happening on the technical side of things, but we ask for meetings and it's really difficult to get a meeting. We ask for letterbox drops, it's really hard to get some support around that. Our city councillor is writing, wanting information, and we're unable to get the information. As community board members, we pretty much get the information at the same time as the public, yet the public come to us. So I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional today, right? Because I've been talking about this now for 3 years, and I'm a little bit angry as well, right? Frustration, the feeling ignored, the abandonment. I'm angry too, because my people have been suffering, and it's only become a crisis in the last 2 weeks. Right? So I know that everyone involved with the wastewater treatment plant is doing their absolute best to get it fixed. I know that Adam is doing the best he can to keep everything stable and working. But we have this situation where we have an us and them situation where it's like, you know, people are angry and then the response to anger, right? Because we're human, the response to anger is conflict. So people get into conflict and nothing happens, it just keeps going around. So I would like to see something whereby the people who are most affected, and I mean the people who are most affected, the people who live next door to the plant, those people on Shortland Street and Cuthberts Road, and those people who are living this every day, I'd like to see those people asked, what do you need? All right? Because a gift basket is no good to someone who needs a lift to the doctor. Right? A supermarket voucher is no good to someone who can't pay for a prescription. So if we can talk in a way that is constructive to see what people need instead of telling them what they need, then that is the way. After the fire, we had a group that got together to talk about things, and that's all we did, was talk about things. It was far too big, it was far too extensive. There were people from Brighton, there were people from all over coming in and having their say because, you know, when the fire happened, the smell was everywhere. I would like to see a more concentrated approach to the people who live this crisis every day. Not, well, this has happened because the rest of the city can smell it today. Because we can smell it every day if I drive down that way. And the people who live there every day are living a life that's kind of on hold when it must be over. They can't open their windows, they can't hang their washing out, they have physical symptoms of ill health, they have respiratory issues, they have depression, they have mental health challenges because of this situation. They are in crisis every day. I tried to write notes for this morning. I just couldn't. I don't know how to get it across in a way that conveys the pain and the angst and the suffering of the people who are suffering this every day. And we don't actually want to hear that you're sorry. Right? I don't want any one of you to start off today and say, we're really sorry this is happening, because I've been telling you for 3 years. You didn't tell me you were sorry last year. Right? You don't come to me afterwards and say, hey, that's real crap, what's going on there? But we live it. Yanni deals with it daily. Celeste is dealing with it on an ongoing basis, and Paul and I are hearing about it all the time. And we do see what is online. We do see people who are so angry and hurt and abandoned, screaming for heads to roll and this to happen and that to happen. And I know that you are all doing your very best. I know that. So we need to come together. We need to forge a bridge between the us and them. We need to actually sit down and find out what people need so that we can help them through their crisis. Not this crisis, because if you've smelt it in St Martin's this week, good. If you've smelt it in Hallsville this week, good. Because it's actually brought attention to the fact that the people in Linwood live with it every day, because that was being ignored. And I don't mean it's being ignored because you don't care, it's just not in your face every day, and it just gets brushed to the side. So I've come in, and I know that some of you go, oh my God, it's her, and I sit down and I talk about the industrial residential fringe, and I talk about pollution. I talk about pollution at Portlink with the noise. I talk about air pollution and around compost plants and wastewater treatment plants, but this is the reality for the people in the East. And I want you to build something better, because I'm just a simple woman who lives in Linwood. I'm just a community board member, and I can't fix this without some support from you guys, without some support from the community and actually working together. So I think I didn't do too bad for no notes. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
You did very well. Yeah, very good, Jackie. We have 2 questions. Tyler, please.
Kia ora, Jackie. As usual, you did an amazing job, and you conveyed that really well. I've got a question around the next part, the next steps. We obviously heard the technical side of things last night through the briefing, but the one that Celeste brought up yesterday in our conversations was the social side. There's a huge gap there. So the question is, what's next? What would you like to do next, collaboratively with the council and the community board, to try and make sure that we bring all of these people in the East together?
I think that the next, if it was up to me, and it's not, and I do not have all the technical knowledge available or all the social knowledge, I know the limits of my capability and my knowledge. I would like to door knock around those homes that are directly adjacent to the plant to ask them what they need. Right? Firstly, we need to show them that you are doing the best that you can. We need to show that you do care. So we ask them what they need, because I've said this before, I worked in health and I would see cancer patients come in and they would say, people are really offering to help us, but they're not offering what we need. And I would say to them, well, tell them what you need. You don't have to accept a meal if what you need is a babysitter, all right? Tell them what you need. So we need to ask what they need. Do they need a right to the doctor? Do they need a clothes dryer because their clothes smell, right? Ask them what they need. And then we can sit back and see what we have and what we can give and how we can make it better.
Thank you. Celeste, and that's the last one, please.
Actually, I think Tyler picked up on my question, but well said. I think you've sort of summarised, what a lot of us have been asking for. So really, just from your perspective, what you're looking for is some really visible, practical, on the ground support for people in terms of their health and well-being.
We need to connect with the people who are most affected, not the people, the squeaky wheel gets the most oil. We need to talk to the people that are affected, not the people making the noise.
Okay, well said, mate. That's very good. Thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you.
That's very good. Okay, thank you to all our community boards. I'll now ask, I'm happy to move it, and Jake's happy to second it. The community boards.
Debate?
No.
Why not?
Because we're not.
We can't have any debate on this.
No, because you'll get your chance later on.
Okay.
Okay.
When?
Okay, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you, that's carried.